Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. Now in our fifth season, looking into the exciting happenings of Ipswich Town Football Club. I'm Richard Woodward and you are tuned in to the flagship show, available every week on video and audio for a sometimes irreverent but always informative hour or more of football conversation. So make your Monday a Blue Monday, and joining me on this windy, wet Sunday, and yes, we are recording, Seb.
Yeah, just making sure you have press record this time.
Northwest correspondent Seb Brown. Seb, how you going?
Not too bad, thank you. Long day yesterday, but not too bad. And thankfully, you've pressed record this time, so we're off to a better start than last time.
I think I think we're doing all right. So we've got plenty of bits and pieces to talk about in the news this week. We'll get on to Sunderland and we'll have a look at that. We've actually got the league table right in front of us for the whole pod.
Does it have to be there?
Keep that in your mind.
Great.
Without the words crap coming to mind.
Yeah.
But the news is a bit crap as well this week. Crap. Yeah. Because it's quotes from people, and the context of the quotes is kind of always important. We always talk about that. One thing I wanted to get your thoughts on. Let's start with this. Terry Butcher is given a coaching role. It's kind of a role that's been created just for him, seemingly, and it's a combination of academy work first and foremost, I think, but there is some involvement, and that's probably as much detail as we've been given so far.
Yep.
With the first team. Is this kind of where we need Terry Butcher with the bandage and the blood to go and give it to our players and get some fight and passion?
Yeah, fight, passion, the warrior-like spirit. We could certainly do with some of that in the first team at the minute. From an academy point of view, it does make sense to have someone of his quality. You know, England caps, trophies, everything. What better role model for these young lads who are developing and coming through the system to look up to and get experience from. From the senior point of view, I'm not sure how much he'll be involved in the senior aspect of training and whatnot. But however, for
hashtag whatnot.
Sorry, yes, hashtag whatnot. But for even for the likes of the most experienced of our squad, the Chambers and the Scooses, again, Butcher's won England caps, played in World Cups, won trophies. Even for those kind of players, they could go to him, and if he can get an extra 1% out of the players in our squad, it could make a difference. So at first, I did think it was a bit of a PR stunt on the back of a couple of bad results. Here we go, some money's going behind the bar, and here comes a legend out of the woodwork. But the more you think about it logically, and the more you work out what he's going to be doing, I think it could have some benefits.
Yeah, and Butcher's been a coach and a manager to mixed success.
The Philippines.
Yeah, big name. Inverness, Caledonian Thistle.
Yeah.
But I think, personally, I look at it as what we talked about. I mentioned this on the Roker Report podcast, that we lack the fight. We've got questions about why we're not winning against top 6, top 8 teams, and you kind of feel that fighting spirit is lacking.
Yeah.
The lack of warriors on the pitch, and Butcher is certainly that. So
and look, we bottle big games. Ipswich Town bottle big games. Terry Butcher has played in a lot of big games, and he's won a fair few of them. So again, if he can somehow turn that mentality around a little bit, getting into the crucial, the business end of the season, if he can have an impact there, maybe again that's going to be an extra bonus for us.
Talking of bottling it. I like Luke Chambers.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big advocate for him being rewarded for just being a great ambassador for the club last season and winning Player of the Season, albeit I don't think anyone really deserved it from the field. But it's kind of 2 weeks in a row now where we've had quotes that, in the moment kind of sound really good, but played out against the backdrop of our results and our performances feel like they're kind of misjudged. And this is quite a short soundbite. I've got a few more quotes here from TWT. Did put quite a lot of stuff out this week, and we'll come on to the Leo Deal stuff that they did in a sec. But it would be a failure if we don't go up. A few of the boys still haven't played consistently at this level, and we need to produce. Yes, the pressure's on, but no matter what the division you're in, when you are playing for Ipswich Town, the pressure is there. It would be a failure if we don't go up. Do you agree with that?
Yes, in what he says, he's right. And like you, I love Chambers. I think he deserves at the end of the season to have some success with us for all he's done over the last 7, 8 years. But when he says these things, I think all he's doing is building pressure. Lambert keeps saying we've got such a young squad. The stats came out this week proving maybe it's not as young as we thought it was, but some of these boys are relatively inexperienced, and if they're hearing their role model and their captain saying these kind of things, I can't help but feel they're going to start to, yesterday's a case in point. If we start to lose these games and points just dropping away and we drop out of the playoff positions and we're saying this kind of stuff, it's not going to be great for the squad, in my opinion. But like you say, I love Chambers to bits, but I think sometimes he's a bit too honest and maybe a bit too sort of passionate in what he says.
Yeah, there's a little. I tweeted something last week about doing the talking on the pitch.
Yeah.
We kind of had Squee and Edwards talking about how everyone's hurting. And
say it in the dressing room. That's fine. Say it in training, say it in the dressing room. But as soon as it becomes a press conference and a soundbite, we're all at it on social media. It's getting around everywhere. There's things in the local papers about it, and suddenly then it becomes a much wider issue. Especially when you then on the Saturday for the next game, for the third game on a row, fail to deliver.
I think I'm all for the captain particularly setting the standard and setting a target for players. I just don't feel that we've got the mental fortitude, was the word again I used on the rec report, for our players to do that. And I think, you judge those comments on the results that we're getting, and at the moment, not so much. So maybe a little bit of humility, a little bit of more effort, less chat, and then come back and if things get back on track, then we can kind of talk about the pressure and trying to get up and failure and so on.
But what he says is correct. We should be going up. If you base it on the biggest budget in the league, we're probably second, I assume, behind Sunderland. Maybe we're top. I don't know, after the January window. But what he's saying is right. I just think it's the delivery and the time and the place it's mentioned that probably isn't the most constructive given the current run of form.
One of the biggest shocks of the week, and it is something that I don't think any of us would have thought about,
mind blown,
is that we're off to Germany again for pre-season.
Yeah, I think.
Where did that one come from?
If you can bring up Wikipedia, I think Lambert played there.
Did he?
I think, at some point in his career, I'm sure he has played in Germany. Hopefully, he'll mention it soon so we can all confirm that fact. But it's clear this is going to be what it is now. We had every year in Ireland under Mick, the same place, the same. I don't know what kind of deals these guys get from commercial points of view. I'm assuming they get free stays if they take the football club there. But I think as long as Lambert is in charge, every single summer we're going to be going to Germany, just like every single year under Mick, we went to Ireland. Get used to it.
Yeah, I don't think we'd be taking the piss about it if the games that are likely to happen are in places like Dusseldorf, where if it was pre-season friendly 15-16 season was brilliant.
Yeah, we both went. It was superb. Easy transport links, a great atmosphere, a great game, and a decent standard of opposition. It's when they start doing this remote training facility that takes 2 hours to drive to the Inter-Western Cup games. Fans have got to drive for 2.5 hours to get there. It just becomes a bit of a logistical nightmare, and I think that was reflected by the fact that Dusseldorf 3-4 years ago, there were thousands of people there, and this one, I guess there were relatively few people there this summer. And if it's a repeat of the Inter-Western Cup this coming summer, I guess again the numbers will probably dwindle a little bit. Yeah.
Leo Neal's been doing a lot of talking. I mentioned this already, so I'm going to quote you some stuff here, and I'm going to try and find a mischievous angle to it. Again, he's repeating the kind of same stuff as Chambers. The squad is competitive enough to be challenging for the title. The quotes, we think the squad is competitive enough to be up there. That's what we set out at the start of the season. There's competition for places. When you look at the starting lineup and we're profiling the 2 or 3 we have in each position, there's competition. It's up to the players to perform really well and each one to keep his shirt. When we are looking to bring in another player, they've got to be better than what we've got. And only that. And a player that wants to come and play for Ipswich Town in League One. Look, I hate business. You're not thinking about the whole pie, Lee. This squad is competitive enough to be challenging for the title. I think, are we believing this hype too much? Is this squad good enough for the title, Seb?
In theory, it should be, but the results on the pitch and the fact we can't beat anybody in the top 8 would suggest otherwise. We've got to remember, Leo Neal is an employee of Ipswich Town Football Club who is owned by Marcus Evans. He's obviously not going to come out and throw Evans under the bus and mention things that we as fans probably want to hear. So I think we spoke in the pub with Mullet about it yesterday, and Mullet described the whole thing as candy floss, which I thought was an excellent comparison for it. It's no substance whatsoever, and a fair bit of buzzword bingo. I mean, clearly that statement there is clearly just defending the lack of transfer policy in January. We all felt a striker was probably needed, a big ugly lump, maybe to help us out in the latter half of the season, maybe a new centre-back. There were spaces in the squad that needed filling, and you could argue the likes of the departures would have freed up some money on the wage bill to make those transfers happen. So all I see there is him, a week after the transfer window finishes, he's come out, said these things as a way of defending the fact we did no business, which could well come back and bite us in the months to come.
Yeah, I think in August, if you look at that squad post Vincent Young signing and Keane signing and Georgiou signing, I think it'd be difficult to argue that. On paper it's there, but we must have learned something through November and December that the squad isn't there.
Apparently not.
And this frustrates me. I mean, we've got questions about this. To me, the strengthening needed to be in the types of the mentalities of the kind of players that we bring in. Again, interesting chat with the guys from the Roker Report about the lack of streetwise players playing for us. You kind of think Norwood and Downs is probably about it. Maybe Scouse knows kind of where to be. But I think at League One level, I think we've got a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's a fancy squad, isn't it? It's a lovely squad to have. Yeah. But I don't think it's not the
battle hardened
warriors not get you points
that you might need.
And I think we're starting to see this with the form of the likes of Judge. Keane had a mixed game yesterday. We're more on that in a sec. I'm not buying this.
Going back to your streetwise point, I mean, I can remember Roy Keane being here and saying the same thing. We need some streetwise kind of players. So this is an issue that's been going on for sort of 10 years or so, which obviously does tie in with our decade of failure, so to speak. It's just deep ridden throughout the club. We don't have that mental sort of the streetness, and we don't the streetwiseness, and we don't have that mental fortitude, like you said, when it gets down to the really important moments.
Yep, and confidence is certainly something at a premium as well. More from Leo Neal. We won't dwell on these too much because I'm getting annoyed just reading it. Lambert contract offer was not premature. So there's a suggestion here by O'Neill that a plan is being put in place that didn't maybe exist before. This is what concerns me. Our plan might be slightly different to other clubs, and we're looking to put infrastructure and platforms in place for the future of the club. Do you buy this? Is there a plan? We've had Marcus Evans' plans before. Yeah,
we've had the 5-year plan from 5-point plan, from Evans. We've had Lambert here since October 2019. 2018. So you're looking at nearly 18 months now, and it's only the last half dozen games we seem to have settled on some sort of formation and therefore trying to develop some sort of identity. So I don't really buy into this plan malarkey. I assume what they want to do is, because Evans is very, very vocal about the academy, and it is a good business model. It's what we did in the 90s. You want to develop your own players, you want to sell them, and then ideally you reinvest like we did in 2000, and you bring in those bit of quality to get you over the line. What won't work is if we stay down this year and the likes of Downs and Wolverton go for a combined fee of 1.2 million. You need to sell Championship to Premier League. If you sell League One to Premier League or League One to Championship, the fee straight away is going to be 25% of what it could have been, and that's what we've always sort of done wrong. We Mings aside, maybe Wickham arguably, we always seem to sell that player one move too early. The likes of Webster and maybe Waghorn, etc. We don't really look ahead with a long-term structure and plan. So I don't know when they're saying that it might be different to other clubs. Are they going to go for the Brentford kind of model of Moneyball, of develop players, buy players in, move them on, and reinvest?
On the cheap.
Yeah, and then that's okay if you reinvest.
As in Moneyball on the cheap. That's what it will be.
Oh, sorry, sell them.
Brentford have got an infrastructure and platforms in place,
but they do it superbly because they've been doing it for years. And if we're at the start of this journey, 10 years into 12 years into Evans' reign, then yeah. Exasperated is the
my issue, and it goes back to the Marcus Evans 5-point plan. Is we were given bullet points that actually weren't a plan. Well, they were a criteria, as in we're going to sign players young, build up their value, and sell them on a profit. We are going to integrate the academy. We're going to play attacking football. Mm-hmm. These are criteria. These are not a plan. A plan needs an end game.
Yeah,
and so we've got a 5-year contract for Lambert. Which we've debated the merits of that on the pod before, so let's not go back to that. But what is at the end of the plan? Remember the Sheepshanks 3-year plan to get us promoted. The target was Premier League. Yeah. We delivered that, I think, in 2 years rather than 3, but everyone knew what the target was. So I know I said previously in this, I think in maybe some of the lines that we'd said that, the target at the start of the season was the title was to go up. To me, a plan needs a little bit more meat around the bones than the kind of stuff that we've heard from Marcus Evans and Leo Neal now. So that's my rant about that kind of stuff. The contract offer for Lambert is silly, and we'll have more on that in the questions. I'm just going to finish off on this point. If I wasn't pissed off already, Marcus Evans is still very much committed to the club. I think there's a little bit of protesting too much here. The fact that we need to be reminded that our owner cares worries me a little bit, and the evidence should be tangible. And in terms of tangible stuff, Seb, lots of stuff happening around this behind the scenes, around the training ground, the stadium.
Pillars.
He's trying to address areas of the stadium to improve the matchday experience, including the pillars. I might ask you about your 12. I stuck mine on Twitter. We'll go through that maybe. But the telling question here, I don't know who asked it, whether it was Phil or someone at TWTD, asked why the stadium was allowed to deteriorate in the manner it had. O'Neill said, it can be a number of reasons why, and it's not for me to say. That's a cop-out, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, like I said a few minutes ago, he is an employee of Ipswich Town Football Club and an employee of Marcus Evans. We all know the reason the stadium has gone a bit ropey is because of lack of investment, which comes solely from the owner. There's no other reason why the stadium looks like it currently does, and no other reason why it's taken so long to fix things. I mean, the roof still hasn't been power washed, has it? The North Stand roof is still the same as it was, despite in the summer that interview where he said, "Yep, we're going to get the roof done." So it all comes down to a lack of investment. That's the only reason why the stadium is like it is. So it is a cop-out answer because, well, he's not going to throw his boss in reality under the bus. If you and me do an interview for our respective bosses, we're not going to throw them under the bus. So I don't really blame Leo Neal for that. I just don't really see what the point of him doing the interviews was, because nothing was gained by it.
Yeah, answer the question or no comment.
Yeah, politician. So
yeah. So a bit of work to be done there on PR and when not to answer questions. I think. Let's move on to Sunderland. Along with 2,000, around 2,000 other supporters, we made the trip.
It's no normal.
Up to the northwest. It's not normal. Northeast. You're the northwest correspondent.
Yeah, northeast.
Maybe your geographic knowledge runs out. Maybe, I don't know. We'll find out.
10 round at least.
So big changes in the lineup, and to Lambert's credit, changes that I think a lot of us were asking for. The most significant of which is Thomas Holy in goal. Otherwise, it's the usual back three. And then we've got some enforced changes. Luke Garber out with an injury. Guion Edwards suspended. So Kenlock and Dynastian come in respectively there. Scouse in the central midfield with Downs. And Nolan is replacing a out of form Alan Judge, dare I say it. And up front, I don't know whether I like this partnership or not. And I would say I'm no any the wiser after yesterday either. But it's Norwood who comes back in. Again, a change that people were asking for and Keane alongside him. Any thoughts on that lineup, Seb?
So some of them were enforced. Obviously, we had the reserve wing backs were out, but there was a slightly different look to the central midfield, wasn't there? Previously, we've had Judge just behind the front two. I think it was a reverse sort of pivot. So you had Scouse in behind Nolan and Downs, with the idea being that Nolan would do his sort of Shrewsbury days of being a number 8. Box to box, support the strikers. So a slight tweak in the central midfield variations as well. Like you, Keane and Norwood. I wanted Norwood to start, but I still think Jackson has been our best striker this year, and with his pace and with Sunderland not having a great deal of pace in their back line, I was quite surprised to see him drop down to the bench.
I'm trying to. Our mate Craig from the pod has been quite. He's done some stats on Keane starting and the consequence that has on goals, and I'm going to struggle to find this on time. But if I find this later on, I'll repeat it. But we don't really have a good record from scoring when Keane starts.
Yeah, it's something like I think it's of the last 6 games he's started. I think we've only scored 5 goals or so. So the stats do sort of prove that. Norwood looked decent apparently when he came on. I wasn't at Peterborough, but he sort of looked okay. And I guess a cold, blowy day in the northeast, you probably want his hustle and his bustle and his aggression to sort of lead the line and put defenders under pressure. But I would always start Jackson because I think he has been our best striker, and I think he can feel himself very hard done by. And as the game sort of went on, we did get luck down the flanks and down the channels, and you start to think to yourself, I wish we had Jackson running into these chances with his pace. Yep.
I failed to find the stats, but we'll hopefully Craig will tweet them, and maybe we'll sort that off the Blue Monday account. Let's talk about Sunderland. It's a 3 at the back for them as well. I think notionally it's written as a 3-4-3. I think the two midfielders sit and then there's kind of, it's not a front three as such, I don't think, but it's McLaughlin in goal, a back three of Flanagan, Wright and Willis, ex-Cov. Midfield four of Denver Hugh, Max Power, George Dobson and Luke O'Neill, and then the front three, although I'd say that it's Maguire, it's Wyke in the middle.
Yeah,
Wyke, Gooch and Maguire either side.
Yeah, Wyke's the focal point, and he's
and he's certainly more he's further forward than Gooch and Maguire.
Yeah, and they make the runs off him with him holding the ball up. That's the game plan.
On the benches, I would say the only thing really to call out for us is Emma Hughes is fit enough to make it, and Josh Earl as well has returned from an injury.
Yeah.
Though he we'll
sporting
talk about him.
A phantom of the opera star mask.
And for Sunderland, new signings Josh Scowen and Carl Lafferty, once of Norwich, are on the bench. Let's get into the action because after a bit of a crappy start, has to be said, Ipswich begin to dominate, and certainly in my mind, Sunderland looking nervous. 8th minute here, Nolan and Keane. Theme of the first half was a lot of possession around the 18-yard box, perhaps a little bit too ponderous to make a good chance out of something. But here, Keane lays in Kenlock, who's in all kinds of space. In Garbett, if Garbett is playing,
1-0.
It's 1-0 or it's a shot on target.
Garbett hits that first time. Kenlock takes a touch. It's not an amazing touch, and by the time he gets his shot off, the defenders come across and blocks it out.
Yeah.
Garbett running onto that first time with his left foot, I think he pretty much tries to break the back of the net, and I think if that's Garbett in that situation, I think it's 1-0.
It's O'Neill who makes the block there. It's a decent block, but Kenlock has two bites of the cherry.
Yeah.
Takes a touch when really, as we say, should shoot. A minute later, it's the ball is in the net for Sunderland. A rare foray forward for them. It's Maguire who sends in the cross. And I think... Oh, no, it's Maguire who pokes in the shot.
Yeah.
But he's offside. Clearly offside. 13 minutes. Half chance here. Downs and Nolan combine on the left-hand side of the penalty area. Wolfenden it is, with as an overlapping centre-back, I guess you could say, actually, in this occasion. He clips a kind of high cross in. Keane actually wins his header for once. A rare incidence of Will Keane winning a header, but he can only head it onto the roof of the net.
He was leading back, wasn't he? I mean,
yeah.
We did see Chambers and Wolfenden get forward quite a lot in the first half. It was a bit like the Accrington game. They'd clearly been given a licence to bomb on because they had the safety net of Scouse and Wilson staying back doing the dirty work. And played really well for the first half.
Yeah, we need to when we get to 90 minutes, we need to figure out a way to properly discuss this because Twitter, I think, is a bit up and down. We talked about that. This first half performance was. I would say it's a 7 out of 10. It's not an 8 or a 9 out of 10 because we end up
taking
our chances. But this is a dominant performance away at a top 8 team, something we've talked about as well. And I think we need to give the side credit here, but not too much credit. I think this is a big chance here. 40 minutes. Kenlock it is, who I don't think have a particularly good game, but this is a lovely ball that he curls around in the left-hand channel, and Norwood is quick. Norwood is in. And we've seen him do this before, one-on-one. Goes for the chip, which is probably the more the high-risk option. Yeah. You're giving him the benefit of it's a difficult situation.
He has a split second to decide what to do. The keeper's off his line quite quickly. It's a beautifully weighted and curved ball through from Kenlock. Norwood breaks the line really well. Times his run brilliantly. He's onto it in a flash, and then he's got two choices: dink it like he does, or try and take him round it. If he takes him round it, if he tries to take it round the keeper, his angle is immediately narrowed quite badly. So and he's on his left foot, his weaker foot. So I'm not entirely sure. I don't really blame him for going for the dink, but as we know, James Norwood and one-on-ones don't have an amazing success rate.
Marcus Stewart scores that chance.
Marcus takes it round him. He's on his left foot, rolls it in, and probably embarrasses two defenders on the line.
Yes,
but we're not in those days anymore, folks.
We are not. 80 minutes, Nolan has a tame shot. 25 minutes. This is again possibly a little bit more speculative. Nolan and Keane again combining around the 18-yard box, working a position. Ball feels loose, and Norwood hits a kind of an out-swinging slice shot that's wide of the post.
It looked on the highlights that the club have put out today. It looked closer than it was in reality. We were right behind that, and it was well wide.
38. Nolan again Nolan's got a real. issue when the ball drops from in space outside the area.
He always side foots
it, doesn't
every time. He side foots it from sort of 20 yards out. You want to get head down and power over it. I think we've mentioned in the past. I need to go and look at his 2017-18 Shrewsbury season to see what kind of goals he scored. But I can't believe that he was side footing stuff then, and it was going in left, right, and centre. So just get your head over it and connect with it and hit the damn thing. But is that confidence? Is that the fact he hasn't played much in recent weeks? We don't know.
Perhaps 44 minutes. Just before that, I need to mention that there's a moment in the first half where there's a long punt forward. Holy's balls were going a long way. All right, sorry. Holy's clearances were going a long way. And there's a few here where Norwood gets in and makes something happen. But there's one here where it kind of holds up in the wind. The defender is kind of wanting to see the ball out, but actually it slows up. And Chambers dashes from his own half to keep that ball in play and create a chance. I think the cross goes in and it's a wasted position. But that is the kind of fight and attitude that we need to be seeing for 90 minutes. And that got the away support up for it as well. Yeah. It's just a shame we didn't really build on that. And 44 minutes, kind of, there's a moment for Holy where
I was nervous here, weren't you?
He's a long way out of his goal. I mean, he's almost on the halfway line. He's almost in the dugout.
Yeah.
And he makes the clearance. You think he can row Zed here.
That's what I thought he was going to do.
He keeps it in play.
I know, yeah. So he comes running out, and he's a big goal. So he's not the fastest. And I think we spoke in the pub before the game. Wouldn't it be ironic if Holy had a howler today for something after all the stick that Norris had recently? Yeah. He comes a long way out, and like you say, I thought he was just going to put his foot through it and try and hit the top of the stand. But yeah, he bends it. It's quite a good ball. He bends it down the line, and then he doesn't bust a gut to get back in goal either. He's running back, but he's not the fastest. So thankfully, the Sunderland player doesn't go for the chip. If it falls to the wrong person, a different person, potentially there they could have had just a free hit on goal. So yeah,
long way out potentially though.
Yeah, it's an awful long way out. But with the wind and the conditions and whatnot, I think I would have probably had to go there. Well, hashtag whatnot, two. You need a little count in the bottom corner here that could start. Yeah.
That's half time, Seb. And if we're going to blame anyone for this defeat, it's going to be you.
Because I turned to you, I presume. So at half time, I turned to you and I said, we are going to regret not taking these chances because we don't play well for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And you scoffed and went, "You fool! We'll win easily." No, he didn't.
I think everyone at the game was thinking exactly the same thing.
Everyone was thinking the same thing. And well, sure enough, let's see what happened.
In terms of the Sunderland game at Portman Road came to mind for me in the first half. In the utterly dominant, I think second half at Portman Road in the Sunderland game we were okay, not great, and Sunderland didn't really have a huge amount. We gave them a goal, but did you feel that this was a great Ipswich Town performance, or Sunderland were just crap in the first half?
To quote Dave, a bit of both. I wouldn't say a great. It's not a great Ipswich Town performance. It's a good performance. But we didn't take our chances, and I said to you, there is no way Sunderland can be this bad in the second half because they were awful. I mean, there was one point where their left back was under no pressure at all, and he just completely sliced the ball out of play, didn't he? Their heads had almost gone. It was absolutely bizarre for a side that's won five out of five and
only lost once at home.
Yeah, I mean, they are the seventh in the league. I think before we started the game, for a side that was up there, we were amazed at how bad they were. But obviously, there was no chance they were going to be that bad after Parkinson got into them at half time, as we're about to find out.
Yeah, well, and Sunderland are in behind almost straight from the kickoff. Donatian it is who has to make it's a heroic block, is what I've called, from Hume, who is in all kinds of space. There was definitely in the second half panic stations defending, and actually the bounces were falling really nicely for Sunderland. There always seemed to be an extra player over in space, and this time it's Hume, and his low shot is bravely defended by Donatian. 51, Gooch absolutely mugs off Wilson, Chambers and Nolan.
He played really well.
Although I think Nolan, to be fair to him, is in the penalty area and worried.
Yeah, Nolan can't make a challenge.
And he curls a shot around the far post, hits the post, bounces out. It's Wyke who is in all kinds of time and space, and all he can do is you are giving him the benefit of the doubt.
I assume he must be right-footed because he just didn't get hold of it at all. He's completely unmarked. Holy's on the deck. And
it's a back pass, isn't it?
Yeah, he harmlessly sort of, slices it through to him. So I'm assuming the poor guy must be right-footed. Otherwise, it is an absolute shocker. But Gooch just went through Wilson and Chambers like they weren't even there. Yep,
55. Maguire hits a free kick straight into the wall. There's a couple of bites of this, and then again a clearance kind of breaks neatly out to it's Hume v Donatian, and again Donatian is quick to slide out. we'll talk about Donatian now, actually, because there's not a huge amount more action for him. We'll talk about it with the substitutes. Let's do that. 57, Max Power. This is a lovely effort.
Yeah,
outside of the boot, that's curling back across goal into the... Probably, I don't know whether it's this going in, but Holy has to tip it over. It's a good save.
And this is 57 minutes, so the whole 12 minutes from the start of half time is
all
Sunderland.
Half,
we cannot get out of a half. It's just wave after wave after wave of attack. At this point, we're really hanging on.
And it's a lot of it is down on the left hand side. Will Keane's gone a little bit missing at this point. Norwood is doing his best to shit house and with free kicks.
I think Nolan tired at this point. Nolan did a lot of running in the first half, linking up play really well, but it was noticeable. I think he tired around about this point, and we were sort of starting to scream to Lambert to make a change, weren't we? We thought we needed Jackson's pace or maybe Hughes' physicality, just to try and stem the wave after wave of Sunderland attacks.
64 though, back past Claxon. I'm trying to remember the incident. I think there's pressure from Norwood. Defender passed it back to the keeper. You don't usually see these given, but it is given. The Sunderland fans are not happy. I think watching back the replay, I think it's a pretty obvious back pass.
Yeah, blame.
How can Ipswich ruin this really great opportunity of an indirect free kick from about 6 yards out? Well, let me tell you. This is one for maybe our older listeners. I can remember...
Mark Venus.
Is there a Mark Venus one? Tell me about that.
Mark Venus?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
is this Watford? No,
Charlton. The season he joined us, so it must be 1997, just before we signed David Johnson. David Johnson mention. There's one but he goes high and he sort of curls it into the top of the net. I think it's in a cup game. We were on a really, really bad run of form with George Burley at that point. But he did same thing. It was I think it was when the rule was first brought in, because that's the only other one I can remember seeing. You have to dig it out.
The back pass rule came in 92, 93 season, I think. And the one that I remember, and this is why I say it's for the older supporter, is it's away at Nottingham Forest.
Right.
And I think it's Neil Thompson who takes it, and Neil Thompson's got a strike on him, and it doesn't go in, but it hits Stuart Pearce in the nether regions. Little Stuart gets attacked by Neil Thompson. I will dig out the footage of both of those. I'll see if I can find them. But
it's definitely Charlton.
If you want,
it's sort of
If you want a textbook example of how not to take these, and we were saying, who would you want hitting it?
Yeah.
And we both agreed kind of Norwood. But of the players on the pitch,
Norwood.
You want Norwood,
head down, smash it. But as I said to you, there were so many players it had to get through, and also Norwood is the only person in reality on the pitch who could have taken it. But I think it would have favoured a left footer, because when Norwood runs up to strike it, it's always naturally going to go sort of across the goal, and that's what happened. He didn't really get hold of it. It's going wide. Donatian sticks a leg out and makes a superb goal line clearance to put it over the top of the bar. But that was our one attempt sort of after half time up until this point. And although it's a really, really good position, I did say to you, look how many players are going to have to go through. I don't think we're going to...
Just hit it, though. Just get it on target.
Yeah, head down and smack it as hard as you can. But
70 minutes, that moment there, the back pass, free kick aside, it's all Sunderland. They're camped around the town area. This is panic stations defending. Eventually, the ball works its way out to the Sunderland left. Cross ball from Hume, and it's Bailey Wright of all people, the centre back. Who hits a lovely effort. It's probably hits it too well, Seb.
Yeah.
Hits the bar. But that had been a warning, and Lambert, kind of, to be fair to him, heeds it. There's a double change here. But talk to me about the substitution, Norwood for Jackson. Norwood's mixed reviews. Clearly that free kick, not good. But he was the only person trying to make something happen up front yesterday. Keane was pretty much anonymous second half, wasn't he? Your thoughts on Jackson for Norwood here?
So we were all surprised. I mean, Norwood was the one making the good runs, the hustle, the bustle, and he had the best chances of the first half. As the game went on, Keane sort of became not lackadaisical, but he kind of... There were a couple of instances where you really wanted to try and bust a gut to hold the ball up front to relieve some of the pressure, and he just wasn't doing it. So I think we all assumed it would be Jackson and Norwood. I mean, after all, that was the partnership at the start of the season where things were going so well. I assumed it'd be both of them. They combined well at Tranmere for the winning goal, but I think we were all shocked when it was Norwood's number that came up on the board. The other one, Hughes for Nolan, made sense. I would have liked it, I think, 10 minutes earlier, about the hour mark, because Nolan noticeably dropped in terms of his... I'm guessing it's fitness. He's not played for a while, and we wanted that sort of that physicality with Hughes in the middle of the park, because we were just getting overrun. But for me, it did come about 10 minutes too late.
Hughes is involved straight away, actually, and there's one of these ones where the keeper comes out and they're challenging for a high ball, and it seems to me from the opposite end of the ground that McLaughlin takes Hughes out, and possibly anywhere else on the pitch. This is a free kick, but nothing is doing here. No penalties are awarded. 78, Earl comes in for Dinasian, who I think had cramped up a little bit. Wolfenden is pushed out to the right. Earl comes on in his Phantom of the Opera mask. I like the look of Earl. I think he was combative.
Yeah.
He's part of this lead up to the goal, which is we're going to talk about now. But I quite liked him, and I thought he did more in 10 minutes than Kennock had done, aside from the pass in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, he came on at left centre-back, didn't he? Because Wolfenden went out wide. So I'd quite like to see him at left-back. He's a big guy, but he's no slouch. He's strong on the ball. So I'd like to see him maybe given a more attacking role. I'm not sure he could do the wing-back, but certainly at left-back, if we have to change the formation at some point this season, I think he could do a decent job. He looked promising.
But this is the goal now, Seb.
Here it is.
And I'm trying to rack my brains thinking about the match footage that we've seen doesn't really give us a huge amount of the build-up. But again, we are being pushed right back into our half. We are around the 18-yard line. The ball is going from left to right, and eventually this ball is going to fall to Maguire on the edge of the box, right in the middle of the goal. And it's a good hit.
Takes it really well, yeah. Wyke does quite well to hold the ball up and drives down into the area. He plays a nice ball across the penalty box, and Maguire lets it run across his body, takes it on his right foot. It's a great goal. Holy's got no chance. He hits it really, really well, and they deserved that based on the previous 25 minutes that had just been building and building and building. I guess you could argue, could we have cleared our lines better? Earl wins a header. I think Chambers wins a header, but Wyke sort of is a nuisance. He's the focal point. He's the target man. He gets his big body in the way of things, lays it on a plate, and Maguire with a really, really good finish. And as soon as that goes in, we all went, well, that's it then. I know there's still 10 minutes or so to go, plus a bit of injury time. But I think we all know at the moment, when we concede a goal, the heads do drop. And I think we all thought, we're not going to get back into this now then. And they probably deserved it. We were dominant first half. Second half, they've hit the woodwork twice. Yeah. It's been wave after wave after wave of Sunderland attack. And I think they did deserve it.
There's almost a second for them a few minutes later. Is Wilson, who had an okay game doing his kind of usual mopping up and clearance
no nonsense stuff.
But he has a total brain fart just inside our half. I guess it's Wyke who's played in, possibly maybe Lafferty had come up at that point and scoot it as he saves today. But there's two chances here for Town to maybe steal something from this. This first one is what you want Jackson to be doing, which is running over the top. I think it's a ball from Downs. It's on his right hand side. We know that's going to be a problem for him, but he's just taking too much time. And really, again, like Kenlock in the first half, should hit it early, doesn't, and Flanagan intercepts.
Yeah, I just think he can't get it out of his feet. He's head down running towards goal. He's left-footed, Jackson, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's on his weaker foot, but he's got to get the shot off there, at least hit the target and force the keeper to make a save. You've got other players running into the box, or you win a corner out of it or something. He just couldn't get it out of his feet, and that summed it up. I mean, I thought he was pretty anonymous when he came on, to be honest with you. We just seemed to go long at every opportunity for Keane to win the headers. We didn't really play to Jackson's strengths, and that was his one chance, and unfortunately he couldn't take it.
And in injury time, there's a effort for Downs here, and maybe in hindsight
it's a decent chance. We're at the other end of the pitch and we're up high, so it was quite hard to see how a clear-cut chance it was on the day. But looking back on the highlights, he's unmarked. He's on his favoured foot and whatnot. Third time. You would want him to hit the target there, but I think we all knew once Sunderland scored, we weren't going to get back into that game, and those two chances proved that, obviously.
And that's the match, and that is 3 defeats on the spin to teams around us in the playoff hunt. 14 shots for us, but only 2 of those on target. And to be fair, Sunderland shots against the woodwork, I don't think count as being on target. So 15 for them, 3 on target, though, plus 2 for the woodwork. We're up to 8 losses now, Seb. And I did a little bit of statistical analysis on the teams that had gone up from League One over the last 5 years, and the number of losses that, whether anyone had got 8 losses or more. And actually, I'm trying to find a positive here, because first half performance is good. Second half performance is poor. Lack of clear-cut chances we're talking about. But this idea that League One is good and that it's all kind of doom and gloom from this point onwards. 14-15, MK Dons finished second. They'd lost 9 games. Burton came second in 15-16, got 11 defeats. Barnsley went up in the playoffs that season, 16 defeats. Bond got promoted 16-17 with 10 defeats. Millwall through the playoffs, 13 defeats. Rotherham through the playoffs, 17, 18, 15 defeats. Charlton last season, up through the playoffs, 10 defeats. So the idea that the league season is all over and automatic is out of the question. I don't think we're quite there yet.
No, it's not over. We're only 5 points off second. I appreciate a lot of the sides above us have got games in hand. But as Ben said, 9 of the last 13 games are at home. If we can just try and sort out that home form, and we'll be playing a lot of the sides who we should expect to beat. Easter is Bolton. I think Southend is the week before that. Shrewsbury's on Bank Holiday Monday. Easter Monday. These are games that at the start of the season we were winning quite comfortably, and we've got a fair few games against the sides in the bottom, well, outside of the top 8, so to speak. So it's not all doom and gloom. I expect Rotherham to win the league now. I don't think we're going to be. Let's not kid ourselves. I don't think we're going to be champions, I'm afraid. But second place is still there to play for. And I saw a tweet yesterday where quite a few of the top 6 have still got to play each other. So we might get lucky there as well. But it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all over. The first half was a decent performance. If you compare it to Rotherham and compare it to Peterborough, it was chalk and cheese. We've just got this problem where we just can't do it for 90 minutes that came back to bite us yesterday.
Yeah. Our form since Accrington, just for some context as well, because we'll do the roundup and then we'll do the questions, because the questions are of a particular tone and mood, I would suggest, which is negative. And this might explain why. Our form since Accrington, the defeats on the 20th of October on Sky, which is 18 matches, won 5, drawn 6, lost 7, a goal difference of -3. And Town now find themselves outside the top 6 for the first time, I think, since the first day of the season. In terms of the teams around us who we can't beat, their results seemed to go for them yesterday.
Yeah, everybody pretty much won, didn't they?
Wickham, let's deal with Rotherham. Let's do it in a descending order, shall we? I'm trying to find Rotherham. Do they have a day off? I know they beat Lincoln on Friday.
Friday night game.
So a 1-0 away win at Lincoln, which we know is not a tough place. Is a tough place to go. They're no mugs. Wickham 3-1 winners over Bristol Rovers. Peterborough 4-0 winners.
They've really hit their stride
4 goals,
now, haven't they?
2 weeks in a running.
I think we were quite looking forward to Maddison leaving. We assumed, Maddison's off, that'll really hurt them. But Dembele, Issa and Tony are just going to... Well, I wouldn't be surprised now if they get top 2, because they're just blowing teams away at the moment.
Coventry 2-1 winners over Bolton. I think a few goals disallowed in that game as well for them. Pompey on a good run of form as well. What did they do yesterday? I'm trying to find 2-0 away at Tranmere. And we know about Sunderland. Doncaster are now up in the reaches of the playoffs now as well. They drew 1-1 with Rochdale though. So that's the kind of teams around us. In terms of the point situation, Rotherham 3 clear from Wickham on 56, and then Wickham have a point lead on Peterborough, have played 1 game less. Coventry though, 51 points. They have 3 games in hand on Peterborough, 2 games in hand on Rotherham and Wickham. So Coventry could upset the top 2.
And they've only lost, if you look at the table there, they've only lost 3 games all season. That's phenomenal. I mean, they've drawn a fair few. They've drawn 12, which is by far the most in the top half of the table. But to get to mid-February and only have lost 3 matches, fair play. That's a hell of an achievement, especially when you consider they're not playing at their home stadium. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair though, I think the games in hand that they've got against...
They are tough, yeah. I can't remember who. I think one of them was Rotherham. Somebody tweeted out yesterday, so fingers crossed somebody else can do us some favours there.
Another team with games in hand who are comfortably in, well, if they win their games in hand, are comfortably in the playoffs. Portsmouth on 50. Sunderland now make up the top 6 by virtue of an extra goal on us, but they do have a game in hand on us as well. And then we are their 7th on 48 points, with Doncaster 3 points behind us and 8th. So a little bit of a gap there.
They have got a game in hand, Doncaster as well.
We just don't want to be the team that ends the league season in 7th. Let's do some questions, Seb, and
let's try and keep it light, yeah.
Well, okay, fine. Let's start with Tim Pashley, who's doing his best to help us keep it light. Is Hughes' sub-appearance yesterday the only positive?
Yes, he played. He didn't really do much when he came on, but I think just the psychological factor of seeing him injured 1 game and off subbed, we all assumed, oh no, here we go. Lambert came out and said it's just a kick on his ankle, but I think we were all worried that might be one of those that goes on and on. So to see him on the bench and see him come on, yes. The other big plus yesterday, I thought, was Danassi. I thought he played really well.
It's a shame he went off.
I mean, it was just cramp. If it's just cramp, hopefully you'd like to think he'd be okay for Tuesday night, because Kane Vincent-Young's probably another 3 weeks or so, I'm guessing, away from first team action after some training under 23 games. But no, Danassi arguably could have been my man of the match yesterday.
I like the look of Josh Earl as well. I'm going to throw that one in there again. Mullet, who we met up beforehand as well. Hello, Mullet. Was that a much better balanced 11 rather than the best one? Tiredness after the way the rotation policy was lauded is worrying. No. Thoughts about the balance and thoughts about the likes. You mentioned Nolan. We mentioned Danasi and perhaps cramping up through tiredness.
Yeah.
Kenlock didn't look.
They were noticeable in the second half. Players noticeably started to fade, which I assume is fitness related because they have not played much in recent times. Obviously, we went out of the Cups early January time. Some of these guys haven't played now nearly a month or so, and they don't really play under 23 or reserve football. So that kind of explains why we dropped off in the second half. In terms of being a better balanced 11 than a best 11, yeah, I guess you could argue that. Keane arguably is. I think Jackson and Norwood are our best front two, but they are quite sort of off the cuff and they're better when they're just reactive and haven't got time to think about things. Keane likes to drop deep and link others into play, so you could argue, yeah, it's a better balanced side, but there's still no win against the top eights.
I wouldn't be starting Keane on Tuesday.
No, I'd start Jackson and Norwood.
But this is where quite rightly, I guess, the question starts. You going to say something else?
Sorry, I think on Tuesday we might have to look at a formation change though, because if Danasian is injured, I can't really see Wolfenden playing at right wing back for a whole game. So
we'll talk about Wimbledon at the end.
Okay.
This is where the tone of the question kinds of changed a bit, and I've got two of our pod colleagues to thank for this.
Don't swear.
Craig, who we met up with yesterday as well, looks like our blip was the 3 wins against Accrington, Trevor and Lincoln. Mikey also says, what if that's football wasn't an option? Weaknesses, he put eczema. Let's ask some proper
Always
questions.
Always the same.
But I mean, this is a really simple question from Barry Mann. It's a really pertinent one, though. Why can we never play 2 halves the same? Is there something to Mullet's tiredness point, or?
Well, at the start of the season, we assumed it was rotation. I mean, we were at Coventry away in the league, and we played really, really well first half. Couldn't take our chances, and then they came out second half and battered us. So you have to assume it has to be fitness. Like I said, 3 or 4 of those yesterday haven't played in a while, so you can understand why their fitness levels kind of drop. But it's certainly becoming a worry, and I think it's now a psychological thing. I think if we don't score when we're on top, then naturally worry starts to creep in both amongst the fans and amongst the players, and that's being translated on the pitch by the fact we're just not doing it consistently for 90 minutes.
2 questions here that dovetail quite nicely. One from Phil Y. Hi Phil. And one from Tractor Boy Pete. From top of the pile 4 games ago, this is from Phil, to outside of playoffs, and if the 3 clubs behind us win their games in hand, we'll be 10th. Might that be a more honest reflection of where we are? Inability to beat the others around us must be worrying, must be wrecking belief now, worrying. And then Tractor Boy Pete says, with the current environment of lack of new player investment from the owner, a large squad, some of whom aren't good enough, and a large fan base who are desperate for success, what do you do to improve things? He's as manager, but what do you has Phil got a point that maybe the fact that we've been in the top 6 for so long is perhaps an overachievement in the circumstances? Or
if you can't
go back to Lee O'Neill's thought that the target should be title.
If you can't beat the top 8, you don't deserve to finish in the top 8. That's relatively straightforward and easy. Based on budget and
7th or 8th in the league table, is that our level? That's, I guess, Phil's question.
We're better than that, surely. I mean, at the start of the season, I don't think anybody was really predicting top 2, but I think the vast majority of us thought, well, we've got a decent chance at the playoffs here, surely. We were all quite excited by the signing of Norwood and stuff, but I think playoffs is our natural position. The budget would suggest higher up, but in reality, I think playoffs is fair for where we should be. And for what it's worth, I do still think we'll get in the playoffs. I don't think we'll finish outside of the playoffs come May. There you go. You can all record this moment.
Clip that, mate.
Yeah, for when I'm on in May, we finished 9th.
So to Tractor Boy Pete's question then.
What did he say? What would you do?
What one thing would you improve? And I want to kind of amend the question if that's all right, Tractor Boy Pete. He said as the manager to improve things. I think the easy thing is beat Wimbledon, beat Burton, and we're very up and down as supporters, and then maybe suddenly we're thinking maybe we're 4th and we're 2 points off the top 2 or something and everything's all right. But what as the manager do you do? Or what as the owner do you do at the moment?
Well, in reality, there's not much the owner can do. He can't go and sign anybody now because the window's closed. So
bring another ex-hero, cult hero in as a coach.
Get Matt Holland in to do some coaching. Get Marcus Stewart to do some finishing coaching with the strikers.
Could do worse.
He's got a job, hasn't he? So I'd get Terry Connor back. Give him the strikers for 6 months for the rest of the season, like he did with Murphy in 2014-15, and get them to get better at taking their chances and scoring some goals. Evans can't really do anything. Lambert now has to find a way, be it either through training, tactics, formation, motivation. He's got to do something to improve the mental fortitude of that squad. Bring a psychologist in.
Yep.
Go and find somebody who specialises in sports psychology. Get him to sit down with the players. You don't have to make it. You can make it optional if you want to. You don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. But there's clearly something there from a mental point of view that we are really, really struggling with. So if you can't improve things by bringing players in, think outside the box, get somebody in, sit them down with them, and let's see if we can make a bit of a difference.
Yeah, again, mental health is a really important topic of conversation for the EFL, for supporters at the moment, and I think a lot of ex-players coming out.
Well, Downs 2 years ago.
Yeah, and Matt Holland, I think, did a really good piece for Bournemouth, I think, on mental health. I think that's a really important point, and maybe there is, people struggling there at the club who need a bit of support, and similarly, we'd say also, as if you're struggling as well, make sure you check out the stuff that the EFL has tweeted. I think I'm trying to remember what it's Mind is the charity.
Yeah,
there's
Mindset
some stuff
or something.
there. Yeah, Mindset. So definitely have a look into that. Some stuff on the 5-year contract here, Seb, and what this means. And also, Andy Gray's kind of made a link with Terry Butcher here. Do you think internally, this is from Paul Westlake, do you think internally the plan was straight back up or else? Or, as Lee O'Neill would have us believe, the 5-year contract suggests not? And there's a lot of people asking about whether this 5-year contract means anything. Andy Gray's point is, does Terry get Terry Butcher coming in, nod to something,
standing behind Lambert,
give it Butcher to end the season,
putting the pressure on.
Your thoughts on the 5-year contract, about whether the internal plan it was straight back up or else? We talked about it a little bit at the start. But.
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously at the start of the season, that's what all the noise was. We should expect to be going straight back up, and given the budget and the playing squad, we all assumed that would be the case. You would assume, even though it's a 5-year contract, you've got to surely assume there'll be breaks in it for compensation and whatnot. If we finish outside of the playoffs, I can't believe there is no chance that Evans has given Lambert a 5-year contract. I mean, let's be honest, he never gave, when Mick got us in the playoffs, he only got a 2-year extension. So for some reason, Evans has chucked the longest contract he's ever given out to somebody who was on one of the worst runs we've ever had, apart from Paul Hurst at the time. So you've got to think, surely, if we don't finish in the top two, if we don't get promoted, there must be clauses and breaks and stuff like that in there to protect the club. So I don't expect Lambert to be here for the 5 years. I don't think many of us do, but I don't think he's going anywhere for the rest of this season. So we need to get used to it. In terms of Terry Butcher being in the background, sorry, not the computer. In terms of Terry Butcher being in the background, I guess maybe if it keeps Lambert on his toes a little bit, I guess you could argue he's quite comfortable without any kind of real pressure. But let's not be honest, Terry Butcher's his managerial record isn't great either. So I guess we'd need
to League One.
Yeah, very true. I guess we need to look elsewhere if we were to move Lambert on, but he's definitely here for the rest of the season, and you would hope if we don't go up, it'll be a parting of the ways.
So Dave Gore's kind of asked that, when do you start looking at those? He's looking at alternatives. He suggested a couple there, one being McGreal, that I think without merit, but they might be in the same league as us next season. So.
The one I'd like who's out of work is Nathan Jones. Mm-hmm. There was a bit of talk about it when just before Lambert signed the new deal, when the pressure really, I think it was after Lincoln, wasn't it, when things got really, really bad. I think it was mentioned in the Blue Monday WhatsApp group relatively recently. He's out of work, which I guess would suit Evans, because I can't see him going to pay compensation to a club to get somebody else in. And I guess there's an argument, do you cut your losses and give somebody 6 months to build a squad? I mean, Ben will know better than we do from his championship stuff. I think Nathan Jones is a 4-4-2 diamond, high press, high energy kind of manager. So I guess you could argue our squad and our players and whatnot.
Five.
Our squad and our players couldn't really adhere to that at the moment. But he's certainly one I'd be looking at if this continues how it currently is.
Noel Baker, cuts to the chase here. Do you think there is something badly and fundamentally wrong with the heart of the club?
Yes.
Why can't we recruit the players other teams do? Why are we such a soft touch? Has Lambert had enough time already? The consistent is Marcus Evans, isn't it?
Yeah, this has been the same way for years. Our recruitment under the likes of Keane and Jewell and Hurst was always poor. It's something is fundamentally wrong, and you have to look back. The only thing that's been there consistent throughout that time is Marcus Evans' ownership. He's changed CEOs, he's changed sort of structures within the club in terms of who reports to who, he's changed managers, but at the end of the day, he's the one person that's been there throughout this entire reign, so the buck stops with him in my eyes.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for being a bit humble when you realise you've screwed up, isn't there?
But he never is, he just does a soundbite statement.
So the easy thing, I guess, to do if you're Marcus Evans and things are looking bad is to sack the manager, isn't it? And trying to change that. But then so much for this 5-year plan. But is there a point where Marcus Evans needs to realise that everything that he's tried so far over the last decade or more has not worked?
Yep. And he's appointed manager with proven track records. So Keane, Jewell, Mick, they all took people. Lambert, they've all taken people up. So you could argue the calibre of manager he's going for. They do have proven track records of success. He's just not willing to give them the backing or the funding to deliver on the pitch.
I think, and I think that question, Noel, is really telling, and it's something that a lot of people have been concerned about for some time. But I think, we're not going to sit here and tell Marcus Evans to sell up, because that's easier said than done.
And also, we're not attractive. Who's going to buy us in reality? All the debt, the stadium's falling to pieces. We're a League One side, outside of the promotion picture now. People, you see on Twitter, don't you? People say, "Oh, brilliant, let's get Ed Sheeran to buy the club." But Marcus Evans is a billionaire, and he can't afford to compete. He's losing £7 million a year. So you've got to find somebody who, A, has got the money to pay for to buy it in the first place. B, is happy to put in £7 million just to stand still. And then if you're talking getting out of the Championship, you're talking another 20-30 million pounds in terms of transfers and that kind of thing. So it's Evans is here to stay, I think, for quite a while.
I'm just going to wrap 3 questions together on Lambert before we move away from that. Will Airy says, will Lambert walk before Evans sacks him?
Nope, I wouldn't walk away from a 5-year contract, would you?
Alex Morton says, what would firing the manager achieve at this point?
You give somebody, do you want to answer these, or are you just firing through them?
I'm going to merge them together.
Sorry, okay.
Because Jack Saunders will counter that with, do you reckon any other club in the league would keep their manager at this point?
Probably not, no, not if you dropped outside of the playoff positions. I think that's quite telling.
Quite reactionary though, no?
But
still only February.
It's been on since October. You brought the stats up there. It's been going on since October, this really? Malaise. The Accrington game, we're top of the league and we're about 6-7 points clear of third place, and it's just since then been a slow descent down the table. If the only advantage you would get of bringing somebody in now, 2 advantages. You might get a boost and a bounce, hopefully, that might see us gate crash the playoffs, or you've got somebody else there who's got 4 or 5 months to sort of, play with the squad and work out who can and can't do things and put together a real philosophy going into next season.
2 questions again, I'm going to merge, so let me answer them first, and then you can say what not a few times. Dylan says, this is more about the personnel yesterday, and again, a bit of a nod towards Wimbledon and what we do there. Dylan says, in his opinion, Nolan once more offered absolutely nothing. I thought Nolan was okay yesterday.
In the first half.
But yeah, surely Dazelle would be a better option. Young, so much potential. The only player to be able to create something out of nothing. And Tony Staunton, who says, love the show. Always a good way of getting your tweet mentions to say that you love the show. Should Lambert have played Norwood and Jackson up front? So your thoughts on, A, whether Nolan keeps his place on Tuesday? I guess by default he probably has to.
No, I'd bring Hughes back.
Or Hughes comes back?
I'd bring Hughes back. I think Scouse did well yesterday. Downs is still available because although it was his 10th booking, 2 of those were in cup games, so he is still eligible to play. So I would have Scouse, Downs and Hughes as my central midfield 3. And
to Tony's point about your front 2?
Naxon and Jorwood. Jackson and Norwood, because, well, let's be honest, they're the 2 top scorers in the team, and also they were the front 2 when we were on this really good run of form up until September, October.
A lot of questions on a similar theme, so thank you to everyone who asked questions. I've not read them, and I think there's kind of a repeat of something we've talked about.
Yeah.
I will end on a couple bits though. One is from Martin F, who has asked us a question about members of the Blue Monday pod team and what they tweet out. What I will say,
this is yours.
In a prepared statement, is that all of us tweet stuff, all of us are on the podcast and give out opinions. We don't ask you necessarily to agree with them.
Yeah.
No one person speaks on behalf of the podcast, even Ben or I. If you see something tweeted out from the Blue Monday account, that is the channel speaking. Otherwise, if you see something from Seb or me or Dave or Mikey or Craig or Stat or whoever that you don't agree with, that is
it's our
their opinion,
views,
which they're well entitled to have. And
football's about opinions as well.
Yeah.
If we all agreed on everything, it'd be quite boring. It's about opinions that you want to provoke conversations with.
But similarly, they talk for themselves, and I'm sure they are happy to debate anyone on their opinions, which is again as Seb says. So no one speaks for Blue Monday apart from Blue Monday, who is a sentient entity that might go rogue at some point if we don't
become self-aware.
Yeah, become self-aware and goes and support someone better. I just wanted to end with Jason, who's always positive and always got something upbeat to say. And he says, wonderful show team as well, preemptively. But he said, we talked about sound bites, a good one yesterday from Lambert. I like everyone to now adopt, we are the hunters.
Yeah.
It's the new no normal. What do you say to that? And to try and find a kind of an analytical point about it. We are now 7th. We are now hunting down the playoff positions. Is that a better thing psychologically for us, as Lambert is alluded to? Or
maybe it relieves some of the pressure. I'm guessing now the onus is on the other teams to stay where they are, which obviously we couldn't manage to do. But we've only become the hunters, not the hunted, because we've messed it up so badly in the last 3 or 4 months. So, if we start mid-table, if this is reversed, if we're crap up until December time, and then we go on the run we had at the start of the season, and we're doing these kind of sound bites like, oh, we're hunting them down. We'd all be really behind that, and we'd all genuinely believe in it, but you can't really say that you're going to hunt them down when you've just given away the positions in the table. So, but I'd expect we'll hear that quite a lot now before the end of the season.
That's your season ticket promotional hashtag.
For next year. Hashtag hunters.
We are the hunters.
Yeah.
Makes me think of gladiators. Thank you again for the questions. Sorry for those that we didn't have time to read out. Always appreciate those. Always useful to shape the debate.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's sum up the podcast. Let's talk about Wimbledon, which is hashtag winnable on Tuesday night at Kings Meadow. Let me tell you about Wimbledon's form at the moment. Lost to Fleetwood on Saturday at home. But their home form generally is okay. They're 16th in the home table. 5 wins, 6 draws, only 4 defeats though. No wins in 3, but their last win was at home to Peterborough. So they do know how to beat the teams at the top, unlike some. But they're 20th. A good buffer of 8 points from danger though. Top scorer's got 11 Marcus 4s, and Joe Piggott, who I think is highly rated, as 6. Your thoughts, Seb, on formations and score predictions?
So a lot will depend on the Dinassian injury. I think Lambert said it was cramp. So assuming he's okay, it could well be the same as it was yesterday with I would bring in personally, I'd bring in Hughes for Nolan, and I would bring in Jackson for Keane. If he doesn't make it, I think we'll go back to a back four with Wolfenden at right back, and I would like to see Josh Earl given a go. If it's a back four, I think he played at left back for Bolton through the first part of the season. So given he's quite a big guy, but he's clearly got a bit of an engine on him. He can clearly do that role. So I'd be perfectly happy. Kenlock wasn't great yesterday. I'd be perfectly happy to see Earl come in as well. As you said, hashtag winnable, and I'm not sure what the stats are now after yesterday, but until yesterday, we still had the best record away from home in the league.
4th in the away table.
It's all falling, isn't it? So you'd like to think that kind of side, and I think that the fact they're 8 points away from relegation makes it a little bit easier. They're not going to be totally scrapping for their lives. No idea on the pitch, but we in terms of must-win games, I'm guessing this must be one of the biggest ones now. We have to win this, and then we have to follow up with a win against Burton if we are to keep in touch with this and stop this from becoming a more of an alarming slump. So I think we'll win, but I'd like to see those changes made to the team if possible.
Good stuff. Well, so plenty of content coming up this week. Clearly, we're back for the midweek show. Our new rule is that if there's a game, we'll do a pod and talk about it. Otherwise, we'll have a bit of a break. So I think it's Ben is back for the midweek show on Wednesday. I think at least Joe, maybe I'll be back for that. Burton, it'll be me, and I think Joe and Dave. And you can find all the details of who's on the shows and the question tweets at Blue Monday ITFC. You can also find us on Instagram. Our account name is Blue Monday Pod Team, all one word. Some good stuff there. And YouTube, make sure you update your subscriptions to our channel on YouTube, Blue Monday Podcast, hashtag ITFC, update your subscriptions, and you can find all of our stuff, including some more and more 99 2000 content to take your mind
memories
of this season. Let's finish with your 12 pillars then, Seb. I put mine out there. Can you remember what you put on your... You went old school and...
I did a mixture. I want the ones that I felt you had to include. I only started watching
Mark Fish,
Adam Proudlock.
Adam Proudlock, yeah.
So I did the likes of, I think I did Crawford, Mariner, Beattie and Mills. Then, like you, I chose the players that I've either seen or grown up with. So Stockwell was in there, Marcus Stewart, Jim Magilton, Matt Holland, David Johnson, Tarico, I think I put in there. But tellingly, I think I might have put Chambers actually. Controversially, I know. But tellingly, I mean, it was after the playoff winning in the side that finished 5th in the league. There was, if I did put Chambers in, I've put one in from the last 20 years, which I think is quite telling of where we are. But I'll be honest, I'll have to try and dig out and see if it's still in my centre. I know it was a form you filled in, so there'll be no history of it. Well.
The club will know.
Yeah, they've got it, and I'm sure they'll ignore it.
If you've got any opinions on Seb's selections, particularly of more recent players, where can we find you on Twitter?
At BrownS08.
And you can find me at Ipswich. Seb, thank you again for your contribution. I'm looking outside.
It's sunny.
Sunshine. We're in the eye of the storm, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's we've been outside 3 or 4 times to pick up bins and various garden ornaments and whatnot, and we had monsoon-style rain about 2 hours ago, and now it's absolutely sunny. So who says climate change isn't a real thing, eh?
Stay safe, everyone, and lock your bins down. And Seb, I'll let you have the last word. And it's a one-word Actually, it's probably...
Can I have 4?
No, you can have one word.
Right.
I want you to say it for the 6th time, and you can sign off. Goodbye, everyone. I'll see you soon. And Seb?
What not? Come on, the Hunters.